So then the question becomes, for the United States, what does this mean about policy? We know that politics is driven, really since the Clinton administration, more than anything else, is driven by polls. And we have got new polling info in from Trafalgar. They conducted polling that, interestingly, fellas, this polling session wrapped before things went absolutely crazy in Afghanistan. So we were starting to see issues, but what we're about to show you is only going to be amplified. And when I was putting this story together, I think I titled it something along the lines of, this may not be a red wave that's coming, it could be a red tsunami. So essentially, let me set the stage for you. First off, Trafalgar does respected polling. They looked at a number of Democrats, Republicans, and other or not affiliated people, talked to them, and they asked them about their optimism for the country. If you can put up the first slide, this is what the no party, other independent folks, this is how they responded. And if you look off to the right there, you can see the aggregate. 32.8% of those people are optimistic about where the country's headed. 62.9% are worried. They are not optimistic about where the country's going. Now, this is really interesting. So it's 62.9 and 33.4. If you ask the GOP, it's identical. 65.4% of Republicans are not optimistic. 21.9% are not very optimistic. So it's not identical. It's very close enough for government numbers anyway. So, guys, we've always talked about, well, political analysts have always talked about how it's actually the middle that decides elections. It's the independents. You know, you kind of know maybe how 30 or 40% are going to vote. You kind of know how 30 or 40% are going to vote. It's that 20 to 40% in the middle that kind of decides things. Rush always disagreed with that. There are a lot of people who don't. If that idea is true, then this is an absolute disaster for the Democrat Party, especially going into 2022 when so much is on the line with the Senate and the House. Cameron, I look at these numbers and it looks to me like fully 2/3 of independents essentially see the world, for practical purposes, see the world the same way Republicans do. If you were a Democrat strategist right now, would you be worried by this?
I probably would, and I'd also be worried about whatever new variant comes along with coronavirus. Yeah. And I honestly think a lot of that optimism, pessimism question has to do with COVID, because we're still kind of in like this weird twilight zone type of situation where it's, I believe it was the governor of Oregon who said the other day that even if you're vaccinated, you have to wear a mask outside.
Yeah,
like
outside.
That's where we are as a country still. And
well, I hope he's enforcing it with the rioters.
And I think it depends on like what state you live in, but I think a lot of people are feeling very pessimistic because we're still kind of stuck, I think we're going to have this pandemic for years, but it's this pandemic mindset that I think is crushing the soul of Americans.
That the media is promulgating. As far as I know, we're the only publication out there that's actually, we are publishing a COVID tracker that we update regularly that actually shows you the fatality rate. The establishment media loves to talk about cases. Good heavens, cases are skyrocketing. We're in trouble.
I was reading an article today, and the headline was, over 1 million cases of COVID in Arizona. Okay, now let's compare that to deaths. I can guarantee you 1 million people in Arizona have not died of coronavirus, and I feel like that should be worth noting.
It is worth noting. And that was the feedback we got when we put the COVID tracker up. Finally, somebody's being honest.
We put the COVID tracker up. You know, I looked at some outlets and how they were covering COVID, and it is amazing. You know, I looked at the New York Times. They do regular updates on COVID daily. And the standard shifts constantly. For a time, it's the number of deaths. Then it becomes the number of cases. Then it becomes percentage of this or that. And the standard is always shifting because they want to keep the fear as high as possible. And, you know, not necessarily because they're corrupt and they actually want people to be afraid.
Sells papers.
Yeah. Completely, you know, greed is always, you can track it back to that 9 times out of 10.
Follow the money.